Yo, what up? How's it going? Today's VOD review, we'll be doing SKT versus King-ZONE Week 4. This is game number 3 of the series, and we're having a good time. Cool. So, if you wanted to hear about the Frostmancy or any of that crazy stuff, I talked a lot about that in game number 1. You can check that out if you want to. I did a VOD review for that. I talked a little bit about it in game number 2. We'll talk a little bit more about the ADC meta in this, as I will talk about in probably every VOD review this entire week because it's pretty relevant. Cool. So, let's just get right into it. So let's just look at the bans. So the bans seem pretty normal down here. The first phase bans seem pretty normal. So the Karma is a Frostmancy ban. LeBlanc is one of the powerful solo laners still left that from the previous meta, so that makes a lot of sense. Thresh is a strong champion. That makes a lot of sense, and these are really powerful first picks, so that makes a lot of sense. Maybe trade out just based off of how the series was going. Ezreal seems like a really key pick, or the Tom Kent seems like a really key pick. So maybe banning out the Ezreal rather than the Lissandra. I feel like the Ezreal has had so much more of an impact on this series rather than the Lissandra has in this series. But King-ZONE seems to have a plan for it, and I think they actually do go the right direction with their draft on how to deal with the Ezreal pick, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. The Kaisa is definitely not the direction you want to go when we pick an Ezreal Tom Kent for full bot side river control. So anyway, so cool. So let's just talk about how the draft goes over here. I do want to talk about actually how draft order ended up going. So we first picked Ezreal, and then we traded the for the Silas. So Korean teams have really been prioritizing the Silas pick. They really believe in the Silas pick, and I do too. So they've been really prioritizing the first pick Silas. Silas is like a late game monster and also forces the enemy team to draft a particular way. But the meta is kind of like in flux to where you can draft a lot of champions that Silas doesn't do well into. So first pick Silas I think is going to be bad currently right now until it's kind of figured out. So I'm not a huge fan of the first pick Silas, but we get the first pick Silas in the back, and the Victor pick. Teams have been really prioritizing Victor. I haven't bought into Victor really all that much. I've been hearing Victor's, especially even in NA, Victor crushes and scrims and all the good stuff. I haven't been seeing like the glorious Victor. Victor also flexes in the 3 lanes, so that's something that's good about the Victor pick. But I think a lot of people are really buying into playing Marksman's bot lane right now anyways. So I don't think this is much of a flex. So I think you do just reveal both of your solo lanes. And the Zoe pick right here is actually really good. Not only does it just work really well with Ezreal, because then you can run a poke comp, which is really good on this current patch right now. You can run a poke siege comp with the Ezreal, which is really good with all the Frostmancy stuff that's happening. So it's really good with that combo. But also, Zoe is really happy to go into either of these lanes because she heavily outranges, as well as I keep saying I'm sorry about that. As well as Silas does not want to take Zoe's ultimate, so that's an ultimate already that Silas does not want to have. It's pretty useless for Silas to take, so it's a pretty good pick for SKT to pick right there. So Zoe has a really good laning phase into both of these, so it gets priority, heavily outranges and trades, and Silas doesn't want her ultimate anyways. Okay, cool. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the draft other than I will come back to the Zac pick, because I know that's like the hot button one, but we'll come back to that at the end. Okay, I do like the Caitlyn Braum pick at the end right here. So the Caitlyn pick was the one that was new to come out. I like the direction that King-ZONE was going, at least with their bot lane, because Caitlyn is more of a neutralizing lane for the Ezreal, so can actually get the push on Ezreal and can push for plates in this lane, so it can get the push for plates and actually has some kill threat. So I actually do really like the Caitlyn pick right here. Maybe Ashe would have been better, but I think they're actually looking for plates. But that doesn't make sense with the Zac pick, because Zac gives you almost no early jungle pressure and has really predictable pathing. So it didn't make sense with the Zac pick right there, but that may have been a team call or an individual call on picking that champion. But we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second, because SKT played around that perfectly around the Zac pick. So, but I do like the direction KING-ZONE was going with picking the Caitlyn, because Caitlyn will neutralize this powerful bot lane that they picked out here, and the obvious jungle river control that they drafted, the jungle mid river control that they drafted. So Caitlyn really stabilizes that, and can actually get the push, and can push for plates, and that's why she's really good. That's why I think she's playable, for sure. So that was really interesting there. Talk about the rest of the draft over here. So we have the J4 drafted. So J4, obviously, he's a really powerful early game jungler. So level, obviously, you know, he's a level 2 jungler, which is really great to have. So he can have powerful level 2 stuff, can fight in the early game, and then, you know, his level 6 Demacia for the king, all that good stuff. So tank engager, great stuff right there. And then Fiora, split push win condition. So Fiora does really well with this team comp specifically, because we have a split pusher who can have quick rotations over with the Ezreal TP with the Tahm Kench, with the Ezreal TP and Tahm Kench, and the J4 that can shadow. So, and also Zoe and Ezreal can stay at really long distances and feel safe with the Tahm Kench behind them while they're sieging and poking out, while Fiora is literally taking their base. So they have a really safe poke siege comp, while Fiora can take their base and wins this 1v1 as the later game goes on. So the Fiora pick was actually really nice right here to round out their draft. So let's individually talk about win conditions for each comp real quick. I kind of explained the SKTs there real quick, but let's talk about it. So they have a poke siege type of comp. So they have the Ezreal Zoe Tahm Kench, so they can obviously get mid priority in the mid game, and can poke and siege and can provide cover for Fiora to just kind of solo win the game for them, because they have Fiora into Sylas, and early game Sylas can trade pretty well in lane into the Fiora, and that can be kind of an even matchup or a tenuous kind of a skill matchup, you know. But as the game goes on, there's a 0% chance that Sylas can ever win that 1v1. Might have to test it a little bit more, but just like even without even seeing them play, even not even seeing this game, you just have to think Fiora would win that, just based off of the champion. And also Khan is a great Fiora player, so this is really good to see. So they have a split push win condition as well as a poke siege comp that they can run right here. And also a really decent early game. They can have a lot of bot mid river control as well as a lot of top control. So Jarvan has a lot of options he can do in the early game, so he can go for that full bot mid control. Caitlyn does kind of neutralize, like pushing for plates, so it's less about just covering for the Ezreal so he can get gold, but it's more about you can get full control of the enemy's jungle so that you can get those neutrals. Or he can play for full control of the top side so that the Khan is free to get ahead, but that's kind of more of an even matchup. But then the other option is they have prio in a lot of their lanes, so and a Jarvan into a Zac matchup is not good for the Zac, as well as with the mid laner having priority, they can just look to shut down the Zac in the early game, which is what they end up trying to do. Shut down the Zac in the early game and then look for control of the enemy's jungle to get those neutral objectives, and then transition that into freeing up Khan to split push the game, siege the game out, and not be able to do anything. Okay, on the flip side, this is the harder part. Let's talk about the KING-ZONE's win condition. So KING-ZONE picked, so KING-ZONE has a pretty good counter siege. They have a pretty good counter siege in a team fighting comp, right? So they have pretty good counter siege and team fighting comp. So the Caitlyn pick was pretty good because it has really decent counter siege. We can set up the traps and can clear the waves pretty well for what they want to do, as well as the Zac pick is picked pretty well into like when a poke comp is trying to poke you out, Zac can just go in and kidnap the backline, so can jump in on the Zoe and pull her out. So that's why the Zac pick was picked there. So Zac makes a lot of sense with this comp in the late game, as well as with the Sylas and the Victor. So it has like a powerful tank line that Caitlyn and Victor want to fight with. And the Sylas, you know, he's that like pseudo tank, survivability, goes in, grabs your ultimate, Mr. Steal Your Girl, that type of stuff. So this comp makes a lot of sense in the late game. But the issue with this comp is that you don't have prio mid. Is that you're not gonna have prio mid in the mid game, and the way they play this is they play the Frostmancy. But even if you weren't playing the Frostmancy, you don't have prio until you upgrade your laser, and then it's kind of a neutral lane state. So you're not gonna have prio mid. You're not going to have prio mid. You're not going to have top lanes is a pretty neutral lane state, or less favorable for the first couple of levels, and then bot is a neutral lane state as well. And Zac has really predictable pathing as a champion, so he has a pretty predictable pathing, and SKT play around this really, really well. We're going to talk a lot about their early game warding because they actually ward all the camps except for one that that Cuz would want to start. So this was like a team counter jungle effort. That really shut down the Zac. So Zac, I think, was a bad pick just based off the early game, but also SKT just played around it wonderfully. Had they been playing against a worse team, maybe it would have been better. Because Zac made a lot of sense into this team comp, but Zac has some really predictable pathing. But with a mid that can't get prio, it was actually really tough for the Zac because of the predictable pathing. I maybe would have, if they wanted to play a tank engage jungler, Sejuani may have been better right here. Because like the Sejuani pairing with the Sylas may have been pretty good with the double melee, and also obvious synergies between Sejuani and the Braum passive. So Sejuani may have been a better pick here. She can have more of unique pathing, can actually do stuff level 2 as well, can actually go for the scuttle level 2. So I can have some pretty more unique pathing. Still is more of a scaling jungler, but can have some more unique pathing. So maybe wanted to see that rather than the Zac, but the Zac made sense in the late game, makes a lot of sense. So I don't fault KING-ZONE for going that draft, but I like this direction of the draft a lot more than what they drafted the last game. Is they basically just drafted the Woos last game, based off of like what SKT's win conditions were, because it was just on SKT to lose the game. But anyways, let's just watch how the game plays out. Obviously, I've already seen it already, and I kind of spilled out how the game's gonna go already, but we're gonna break it down. It's really important that we watch SKT's early game vision, and we watch how they actually place the vision, because that's what actually destroys the early game for KING-ZONE, and that's really important to watch. And it's specifically because of the Zac pick, because of how predictable Zac's farming patterns are. And that's why this game kind of got blown open really early. Also wasn't a fan of, we're going to see in a second, also wasn't a fan of the Victor going the Frostfang in this matchup, because you're not going to proc it that often, because Zoe is out of your range a whole lot of the time, as well as the way Faker was playing the lane was, he was like not in lane ever, he was just shoving you in and leaving. So wasn't a big fan of the Frostmancy on this one. Cool. So we're going to play this first part in normal speed. So normally I would play it in fast forward, but we're going to play this first part in normal speed. So you can watch vision control. So watch this minimap up here. So SKT's pushing up just to get vision of where Zac is right now. And Quid's just hanging out of jungle. He wards the Raptors, so he knows he's not starting Raptors. And then Khan's actually going to ward the Krugs over the wall right here. I believe they just got vision of Zac walking out of the bush right there, so they actually know he's standing right there. And then Khan's actually going to ward the Krugs as well. Yeah, they actually get vision of Zac right now. So they know either he's going to start... yeah, see, now he warded Krug. So Zac, since they see him walking right there right now, they know he's going to start Wolves. There's no way he starts any other camp. He can maybe start blue. Zac can solo blue pretty easily. He can maybe start blue, but it would have been a waste of time, so there's no reason why he would have, because he wouldn't have got there till 135, so that wouldn't have made any sense. So no, he started Wolves. So they know he started Wolves, so J4 is just going to immediately walk to his blue, because either he's going to find Zac at his blue and fight him, and the lane's in a neutral state, and then Zoe's going to be able to rotate over, so they're going to have prio. But since Zac sees him, he's just going to walk that way. So now J4 is going to get a free invade and take his bottom side. Or he actually doesn't. He just takes Scuttle. Or I think he still takes his bottom side. Yeah, he still takes his bottom side, so he gets Scuttle and bottom side. I'm going to talk a lot about jungle right here. So they know Zac is on... Yeah, so they know Zac is on Raptors because they see it. They had vision of him. The vision expires, so he goes to red. They know he's not on Krugs, so the only place he can be is red. They know exactly where he is right now. Yeah, so Faker warded over this wall right here, right? So Faker warded over this ward's really good, by the way. So you can spot this ward's really good for two things. So you can spot the enemy roaming as well as the enemy jungler coming down for Scuttle. So they know he didn't come down the Scuttle. Also, you don't come to Scuttle till you're level 3 on Zac typically. Typically, you don't go for scuttles until level 3. So they know he went for red. So as soon as Faker pushes in the lane, he knows he's going to have to walk up to these Krugs because they haven't seen him show up at that point yet. So even without vision, they know that's what's happening. And he knows that the mid laner's not going to roam up here because if Victor roams up right now, he's going to lose so much. Like his lane will be over if he walks up right now. He'll lose an entire wave's worth of experience, so he literally can't walk up here. So this isn't risky at all for Faker to do this, as well as Quid is roaming up right now, so he can literally just come behind Victor if he does walk up. This was so good. This is a really good play. This is why Zach gets smashed in the early game. That's why Zach is a rough first round pick. Oof. All right. We'll put it in ×2 speed now. We're going to talk more about the counter jungling because Quid does a lot of really good stuff. All right, so now they know Zach is clearing it, but they just delay him. He gets the camp to half health, and then they delay him. And Faker doesn't even miss a minion. I think he maybe missed. I don't even think he missed one minion, and then Quid gets a full topside clear. Okay. Quid just recalling in the bush just in case he can, or not Quid. Cuz is just recalling in the bush just in case there's a fight. That's just something junglers will do when they're recalling topside. It's a pretty standard play. Yep. Let's see what Quid does. I think Quid just meets him bottom side. Oh no, Faker meets him bottom side because they know his camp timers because they know he started this camp, so it's gonna spawn. It's just gonna spawn 130 after camp spawn. So they know he based after that top camp because they saw him clearing the top camp, and so Faker just pushes in the lane and then just waits for him to come here. Victor ends up getting the XP for this, so Victor ends up killing this, not Zach. So they don't actually get his passive, which kind of sucks, but Zach actually didn't get any of the XP for that. Victor got the kill. It would have been nice if it didn't if the camp didn't even die. So Zach gets the clear up there, and then so rather than Quid just going to his bot side and clearing like he could, he just wants to keep the Zach down. So he wants to not allow Zach to get out of the early game. So he wants to not allow Zach to get out of the early game. Because Zoe already has the push, so she already has the push, and their team has more scaling options. So forcing King-Zone into making like decisions around do I give up this XP, do I not give up this XP, is a better use of their time than J4 just like trading evenly in farm, right? So actually putting down the XP is much more important. So he's just gonna cancel his back. So J4 pushes up, just stands in position to back his teammate up. But also, what's happening right now is so Cuz coming from base. I'm gonna talk a lot about the jungle because it's kind of the only thing happening. Cuz coming from base right now has a couple of options. So the safest thing for him to do is just to go bot side and get this Gromp. But if he gets this Gromp, his wolves aren't actually going to come up in time. I don't believe. I think he'll still have to wait like 30 seconds, so it would be slightly inefficient. So the most efficient thing for him to do would just be go up here and then walk down and then grab both of these camps and then grab his Raptors. It feels kind of counterproductive. He's walking down, then walking back up, but he's also getting slammed. But he goes for the riskier play and just goes directly for his respawn because the rubber banding of these camps gives you the most XP. Because what you would think would happen is Jarvan would just reset and do a full clear to get his level 6. But Quid is only interested in holding the Zach down because it's a better use of J4's time to hold Zach down. Because J4 is at his powerful moment right now. I mean, J4 is powerful at 6, but Zach is like not even a champion until then. So it's a better use of his time to prevent Zach's level 6. Cuz looks for some wards. Cuz doesn't get the camp. Feels bad, man. And also the Scuttle Crab is topside, so it makes sense for Quid to be topside. So he can actually just go down, take this camp, and actually can look for a queer and then invade Zach's bottom side if he wants. Completely hold him down. I don't know if he can actually get to his bottom side in time, TBH. I think Quid just looks for a full clear now. Yeah, but this is what happens when you pick Zach into like an aggressive jungler. Like when you pick Zach into aggressive jungler when you have lanes that actually don't have priority. Yep, and Quid just rotates over and takes the blue buff. He's level 6 and he's level 4. Feels so bad for Cuz. Oh, Demacia. Okay, let's actually... we actually do get to see replay on that, so I'll just put it in normal speed. So we'll actually get to see replay on that fight. I want to say Tucson uses his shield early. Not too early, but I guess it would have been better to block that, obviously. Maybe Faker move down, not on vision. Let's go, he says over there. Let's go. Yeah, it would have been much better for Tucson to use it on the second half, obviously. Maybe Faker came from base because the wave was in a neutral spot. Who knows? Did he TP there? No, he didn't TP there. Interesting. Yeah, could have had a better use of shield, but also I think they were dead either way. Demacia, you know what I'm saying? Just hashtag just Demacia things. So with that kill, they actually might have control over bottom side. Caitlyn still has a lot of damage, but you know what sucks about all the shenanigans that's happening with all the shenanigans that's happening with their jungler is it's not allowing Caitlyn to play more aggressive in the laning phase. It's hard to say because we haven't seen Caitlyn really play it a whole lot in a while. I think in this lane, Caitlyn still can just straight up get the push on Ezreal. Or yeah, I mean Caitlyn should just straight up get the push and be able to get some plates. But with the jungler being like this anemic, it's hard to like do Caitlyn things when the Jarvan is just shutting your jungler down so hard. That was a good play. They get modest flash, so good play. But while that's happening, Quid is just gonna take the Rift Herald because they see the jungler bottom side, so it's a free Rift Herald. And after I have the Rift Herald, he can just immediately use it for turret gold if he wants. Yeah, I think that's what they end up doing. He just immediately uses it. Yeah, he immediately uses it for turret gold. They want to get their split pusher ahead, so that's pretty smart. So they just use that literally just to get their split pusher ahead. Nice. Last time they did that, they didn't give the gold to anybody. Yep, good gank for Cuz. See, that's what Zach does once he's online. So that's what the J4 is trying to hold down. Boom. Doing it. Oof. Alright, so now J4 is going to want to transition his control around the bot side. So they'll get bot side vision control because they're mid laner. Even though Faker just died, he still has control of that lane. So he still has control of that lane. So they can get control of that lane and then transition down. Because actually bot lane has control since they got those kills. As well as Ezreal has his Mana Moon and a Sheen, so he can actually get the push in this lane, as Caitlyn does not have a completed item. So J4 can actually transition his lead down here, and they can set up for a dragon. I think there might be a fight right here. Yep. Oh. What is happening? Yep. Yeah, so they have full vision of this, so they actually don't even have any clue, and Ezreal just pushes in the bot lane, so Caitlyn has to answer the wave, so this dragon is free. So they just took that completely out of vision, because they have full vision control of the actual jungle while they're pushing into the enemy's jungle. So they actually, or not jungle, but full vision control of the actual dragon, and they pushed in the wave to the tower, and Caitlyn had to answer the tower, or she would just get denied like half a level of XP. So that dragon was pretty free. So Ezreal's still going to want to go bottom, most likely. The thing about this is they don't have to break open the game through Ezreal. They want to break open the game through Khan now. So they might be looking for a dive here if they can get it. No? Okay, that's fine. I think Quid's just going to cover mid. So they actually want to break open this game through Con, because the way this game goes, like Con has his Ravenous Hydra. I don't even think Silas can lane against this now, and at one more item, there's a 0% chance Silas can lane against this. Yeah, Mata played this kind of poorly. He stepped on a trap, and he could have cleansed Flash immediately, but, you know, things happen. But J4 is basically just shadowing for the Fiora, because Ezreal Tahm Kench is a pretty safe bottom lane, so hoping that they can just survive the dive. Ezreal survives the dive, so they get the, you know, they lose the minimum probably in that. You know, expend 4 people down there and a bunch of ultimates, so they lose basically the minimum. They don't have vision of their entire bot side. That's a product of J4 being topside this entire time because he was shadowing the Fiora, but that's fine. Yeah, Caitlyn still doesn't have an item because she went for like BF Zeal. But Caitlyn's looking for like 2 items and she can start dealing some damage. And then 3 items she'll really come online. But Con just might win the game by then. Alright, so SKT really wants to get a good dragon setup right now. Since they took mid tower and top tower, they want to get a good... they can actually, if they want to... They still need to catch sideways. It really sucks that they haven't taken this bottom tower yet, because they can't just rotate their Ezreal mid to get mid priority. And Caitlyn actually does well in that scenario as well. So they just want to get bot priority and mid priority, right? And then push up their vision and get vision and then chokes. But at that same time, Fiora can just shove in top. And they can actually just delay this fight as long as they want and get Fiora alone time, or Fiora can just make the make the TP play in. Fiora doesn't really want a team fight, so if they can actually just get vision in these chokes and force them into situations that they don't want to have and leave Fiora on an island, that's beneficial to SKT. So delaying this fight is fine, but I think they just win this straight up 4v4. Let's see. Oh, that sleep was really good. That's what a poke comp does. So they can just poke them out and kind of delay the engage. If they can poke them out and delay the engage, Con can just get all the priority in the world for them. And they can just rotate their vision, the chokes, over here, if they want to. They might not have the wards to actually get the vision control. If they really want to break that bottom tower. If they broke that bottom tower, it'd be so much easier. They could just get vision of this quadrant. Yeah, see, Con just pushes up mid rather than top because he actually wants to wrap around and join the team a little bit. Also, he draws 2 people mid. So since he drew 2 people mid while pushing in mid, that frees him up to just pull the trigger on Dragon. Yep. So as soon as they saw Zach use his engage tool, they just pull the trigger on Dragon, so that's free. Now Fiora will just go right back to pushing. She might want to go to the opposite side of the map. She might want to go to the opposite side of the map just to be on the opposite side of Baron for TP advantage. So they might make that swap in just a second. She does want to be where the Silas is because the Silas can't lane against her. So I do think they make that swap in a minute. So, yep. Let's see. If you've never watched any of my VOD reviews, I always talk about the game from the team's perspective. I always talk about the game from the perspective of the team with the advantage. So that's why I'm talking from SKT's point of view. It's not because I'm a fan of SKT or anything like that. I just always talk about from the point of view of the team that's in the driver's seat. So the team that has the controls, and then I'll also double back and talk about from the team side of how do you wrangle control of this game from the other team. And sometimes it's hard to talk from that perspective because sometimes you pigeonhole yourself within the draft a little bit. This draft wasn't that bad, so this wasn't like GG better draft wins, but there were some drafting issues just based off of the champs that SKT had that did kind of pigeonhole, but not pigeonhole just in champ select, but just based on how SKT played around the game. That kind of have KING-ZONE in a really tough spot right now. Yeah. So they just want to have the Ezreal mid. The Ezreal, they just want to have 4-1 right now, and then move the Zoe over or somebody to catch a side wave, right? Catch a side wave for XP. Get your side wave up for XP, and then just move the 4 back mid. Get vision control of the. They want to get vision control of the quadrant that Fiora is in. So Fiora is going to be on top side. They want vision control on that side so that Fiora can feel safe pushing in, because she can 1v1. She can take towers in the face of a Sylas right now, and can win some 1v2s. So they just want to get vision control in the quadrant that she's in, and as well as around Baron. So they actually don't necessarily need to do like the choke you out of the Baron zone. They just want to free up Fiora to feel safe on her side. Yeah. And so this is when they rotate Fiora down bottom. Another option that they can do is they can have Fiora just be on the bottom side, and they can just get vision control on the Baron quadrant and just have their, so Zoe's going up top side to catch top wave, to catch that XP, and they have their 3 mid. They can actually have Fiora on their bottom side and get vision control of this top quadrant, and just have Tahm Kench and Ezreal ready to rotate over with the Abyssal Voyage. In the event that Fiora gets collapsed on, or they just Abyssal Voyage right over to the Baron. So they can just maintain vision control topside if they want to, or they can do vision control and feel really safe for the Fiora if they want to, if they just want to play directly to that win condition, and just free it up for the Fiora. So they can play vision control to either of those sides. I'd probably favor just playing vision control for the top side. And just kind of decide on how you want to use the Tahm Kench ultimate, because you do have some Baron threat. Their Baron clear is pretty, their Baron clear isn't like you're looking at the champions and you're like, oh man, their Baron clear is crazy. It's not like they have, like a Vayne and like an Ardent Censer or something like that. But they do have a Mountain Drake, and one Mountain Drake is actually insane. So, yep. So they have the Zoe catching sideways right now. They have the Ezreal J4, Tahm Kench mid. And look, that's what Ezreal and Tahm Kench will do mid. They rotate to any fight you want to. So Ezreal does, baby. Ezreal Tahm Kench, OP. And then like if there was like a play that was going to punish them at that same time, Ezreal loves to run TP. I mean, a lot of AD carries run TP nowadays, but like Ezreal just TPs back to the tower if he wants to. Ezreal's really good right now. Now Fiora will just take your tower in your face. Now there's no threat of the jungler jumping on them. Now they can push up, and they can just rotate down to Dragon. And there is actually no threat of the enemy taking Baron, so they really don't have to like play careful around taking Baron. But Ezreal can just push up the minion waves, so get minion priority. Fiora rotates down, helps with the Dragon. Pretty good. Yep, this is the power of Ezreal Tahm Kench, or just Tahm Kench in general. Caitlyn's almost on her 3rd item, so she'll feel pretty strong at the 3 item, but it's still no like 6 item. But SKT now has 2 mountains, so that split push win condition is going to feel even more great, as well as the Baron threat is going to feel amazing. So SKT getting engaged on over here. They just peel back and start poking. Teddy takes a trade that he doesn't really want. But Khan's just taking the tower in Sylas's face. Ezreal ults 9 times a fight. Champion's balanced. I hope they don't nerf Ezreal. I love Ezreal. I think Ezreal is really good, but I think there's a lot of good marksmans that you can play around. I think Ezreal and Lucian are definitely the best, but I really hope they don't nerf Ezreal. I love him. Yep, so they're just maintaining vision control around Baron pit, because they actually have a lot of Baron threat now. even without Fiora, because they have those two mountains. Oh, clipped him. I didn't even realize. I think there might be a fight coming up here soon. I know there's a fight in the mid lane with Caitlyn. If this was an NA game, Zoe would have never gone top and caught any of those waves. Just saying. Should be bottom lane the whole time. Or I mean mid lane the whole time. Yeah, there's a fight about to break out right here. And then Fiora is just taking tower in her face. So they actually get tower topside as well. So King-Zone actually get mid prio a little bit. Yeah, so Teddy and Mata are just positioning on that side of the jungle because they know their teammates are behind them. So their teammates are a little bit late getting down. So they actually lose Teddy at the very beginning. So it's actually a pretty uneven fight. Silas TP's in, but Fiora is by herself. Look at Fiora. Fiora's about to win the game. Yeah, Silas had a TP in order for that fight to, in order for them to win that fight, but they lose an inhibitor on the side opposite of Baron, so that's really bad. But he was probably gonna just lose that inhibitor anyways. Like, he was probably going to lose that inhibitor anyway, so I don't blame him for that TP at all, because he was probably just going to lose that inhibitor anyway, so their only chance of maybe winning was just winning that fight and maybe cracking the mid tower, but they're in a really tough spot right now anyways, so, but their only chance of winning that fight was him TPing in. But Fiora takes that in the tower, and now their super is going down bottom, so now Fiora can just continue to Fiora can actually threaten the end of the game. And they have to send two people down there because Silas, she can literally end the game in Silas's face, and they have so much Baron threat. So King-Zone just has to just literally look for a fight right here because they'll have to send two bottom for Fiora, or just give free Baron, and the game's just gonna stall. The game's just gonna end. Oh, look at this! Look at this! She literally will just end the game in your face. Oof! That's a oof. Oof. Oh, split pushers. Really clean game by SKT. Like, really, like, the early game was so nice. The early game was so nice to see because it was like a change around like just the Ezreal style, which we saw in game 1 or game 2 and game 1 from King-Zone, really. Well, King-Zone played that really cheesy style in game 1. Fiora basically almost ends the game. Khan has no kills. He's 0-1-0. He has a Spear Sojin now. Yep, and now they have Baron, so they literally just go mid and top and take everything. And Fiora can go to whatever lane she wants and threaten the end of the game. Yep. Khan just goes bottom and threatens the end of the game. He doesn't have Baron buff, but it doesn't matter. He's a Baron buff. They get Modest Flash, doesn't matter. Faker one-shot somebody. Then Khan's like, hey, give me some kills, please. And the game's pretty much over. Alrighty, well that's going to be the end of that game. So, pretty clean series by SKT other than game 1. The Kai'Sa pick was really bad. I think Kai'Sa maybe could be an dude, I really don't want to be the bold one and say Kai'Sa's trash now, but I don't think she's good. I honestly, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, I don't think she's very good. I think maybe she might get figured out. But like, I think there might be like a build path that people might be able to figure out to make her playable and make her good in this meta. Obviously, if you can get to the late game, she's a monster. She might be good in NA. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on NA or anything because I love NA. I love watching NA because I love the teams. I'm all hyped about the teams and everything like that. You know, like I love like the show and everything like that. But like, NA just stalls out the game too long because I don't know like how to do objective control, how to properly control choke points, how to properly do vision control, like where to like apply their pressure and apply their lead. Like NA teams just for whatever reason don't know how to do it, or just they do know how to do it but they just don't execute it for whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure there's really smart people within the teams and within organizations who know those things and are trying to apply that, but for whatever reason it doesn't translate to stage. So I'm not dogging on coaching staffs of those teams or the players themselves. Just for whatever reasons, the games are 45 minutes long when you have snowballing team comps. So it kind of makes no sense. So it's kind of weird. So it might be an okay pick in NA, maybe. We'll see. But it seems like we're really in a snowball meta still. And bot, like I'm really a big fan of bot river control. I think is really important. Bot river control is really good. You don't have to play around bot river control because you can actually just full play around top side. I know I talked a little bit about like I'm more of a fan of playing like if you can get the full winning bottom side, like you get the Ezreal Tom Kench, and you get a winning mid lane and a skirmishing jungler. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be the winning jungle matchup, just like a jungler who's able to do something in the early game. I'm a big fan of that because I think the early dragons are so powerful, as well as just like having prio and getting plates on those lanes is very good. Another viable strategy you can run is you can have that split push top side. You can have like that Jace, you can have that Fiora, and have a stable bottom lane, like a Caitlyn Braum, something like that. Have a stable bot lane to neutralize what the other people are doing. I recommend that you don't allow the enemy team to have an Ezreal. Or the Lucian pick, but have like a stable bot lane setup. And hopefully a stable mid lane, and you can get prio topside, and get the Rift Herald and get that early gold onto your split pusher, and just shadow around your split pusher. I also think is a really viable strategy, and you run like poke siege mid, or it doesn't necessarily have to be poke, but you get a really good siege with the rest of your 4 and get a really good split setup, as I also think is a really good viable team setup for this meta, as well as a 1-3-1 is also pretty good as well, like with like a Ryze Fiora, and then like Ezreal Tom Kench, J4, something like that. Sounds really good to me, but I really don't like these like we're going to get a scaling jungler, a scaling bot lane, a scaling mid lane, a scaling top lane. Stop drafting for scaling, dude. We're snowballing, dude. We're snowballing. We're not scaling. We're snowballing. Wrong S word. Anyways, all right, that's all I'm going to say about all that stuff. This is my last SKT versus KING-ZONE VOD review. We're going to be doing, Sandbox versus Jenner tomorrow. Probably going to be a 2-0. But I'm going to have fun doing that. But anyways, this was fun to do. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to find the stop record button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, bye-bye. I found it. Okay, all right, bye-bye. See ya. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.